Hello, everybody. Good Monday morning. Uh, Constance and I, mostly Constance with me just watching and making a comment here and there, have been cleaning up my office. We moved here over a year ago, and the move was just so terribly traumatic for us that for a long time we've kept things more or less in the boxes that we moved in and hadn't felt too inclined to settle in. And actually, we still don't feel all that comfortable settling in. But I've got to get stuff done, and I do that kind of stuff in my office. And Constance insisted, rightly so, that I clean up and organize my office, so I could clean up and organize my mind. And so it's looking pretty good. As you see, we've actually hung a few things on the wall here. But the neatest part of doing all of this is we're going through boxes that we hurriedly threw together back in Costa Mesa. And I've got lots of neat stuff, okay, historic kind of things and writings and books and things like that. You can imagine the magical toys that I had to just throw together helter skelter. One of the things I ran across yesterday was something that was published in the OTOs, the U.S. OTO, which at the time was the OTO. Way back in 1979, or perhaps even late 1978. Now, I joined the OTO in 1975, and the OTO was just starting to get going, and we started to initiate ourselves in 1978. That's what that charter is. But Bill Heydrich, the Grand Treasurer General, published it from his own house with a real live printing press that used metal plates, or either metal plates or paper plates, what he called the magical link, which was a newsletter that gave like a regular published presence to the OTO. It was a marvelous thing. Bill Heydrich was and continues to be a true Thelemic hero of our modern times. But anyway, one of the first couple issues of the Magical Link carried a few installments by Hymenaeus Beta, Grady McMurtry, who was the caliph, the first supreme and holy king. He succeeded Karl Germer, and Germer succeeded Crowley after Crowley's death. But here's an installment, and I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to share it to you. If collectors of the old Magical Link probably already have it, but it's so colorful and it's so Grady. And Grady was my initiator. I'm happy to say that he was. And as a matter of fact, when I met him, he was still married to Phyllis Seckler McMurtry. And when I met them both in 1975, they became, in my mind at least, my Thelemic OTO and AA father and mother, or at least godfather and godmother. But anyway, I'm going to take the next probably 2 days and read you in short little installments Grady's own words on Knowing Aleister Crowley Personally by Hymenaeus Alpha 777. Now, in the paper that I had here, okay, it got stuck to a plastic thing. This is a floor plan of Crowley's house where Grady visited him. Grady visited him in all 3 locations of where Crowley lived in the last years of his life. And this, I believe, is the 93 German. And so he's got a little floor plan of chairs, and he's got them labeled A, B, C, D, and things like that. So to help us picture things as he's describing them. So if you're ready to hear our beloved Caliph Hymenaeus Alpha 777, here's what he said in that magical link. Bill Heydrich has asked me to tell you what it was like to be under the magical instruction of Aleister Crowley personally. Unfortunately, this is impossible, much as I would personally like to accommodate him and you. After all, if one cannot discuss the secret of the 9th degree with its well-known secret ingredient, except under seal, how much can one get into the doctrine of the Golden Pyramid of Atlantis, which has been published by AC himself, can be discussed. If you want some idea, take a look at the Crown of the Fool in the Thoth Tarot deck and remember the ancient adage, the universe is held in the mind of God. Already this is loaded with stuff, okay? Add the ideas of computer programming and tamatantras and what people really mean when they say they are maintaining. What are the real words signified by AA? How does one charge a set of Abramelin squares written in Enochian? And why? And why you shouldn't? The mystery of the Virgin Man. Reflect on your biblical woman clothed with the sun and reread your Kabbalah Denudata and the 12 stars for her crown, being the 12 cranial nerves of the cerebellum and activated psychic body. Why should the ancient curse be, may Coronzon burn the back of your neck? I'll give you a clue. The Vishuddha chakra, or Da'ath, in the activated psychic body. Or the nature of the boat of the sun. It's impossible to discuss these things, except under seal, of course, because of 1, the 4th rule of the Sphinx, silence. 2, the magical penalty for a violation of an oath. Or 3, the danger. Not to me, to you. I would not care to have the karma of Lou Culling, who published certain inaccurate books on sex magic. It is like handing a lighted stick of dynamite to a child for a firecracker, or throwing acid tabs to teenagers like sugar cubes to piss ants. The only thing I can think of worse from a thelemic point of view is telepathic hypnotism. Telepathic hypnosis. Excuse me. You will notice that Crowley was never so irresponsible. It has occurred to me that I'm one of the few people left alive who knew Aleister Crowley at the last three places he lived. 93 German Street, that's Jermyn Street. The Bell Inn, Ashton Clinton, and Ashton Clinton Bucks, north of London, and Netherwood, the Ridge in Hastings. So let's meet Aleister Crowley. As I said in a previous rap, I believe is referring to Equinox Volume 1, Number 4 of the OTO newsletter. The Magical Link, Volume 1, Number 4. 93 German is just off Piccadilly Circus in London. As best memory serves, it is the bottom flat of a several-story apartment house facing north. This is what the interior looked like. Well, actually, it probably looked a little clearer than that diagram. A is the door leading in off the street. B was a large window that lighted the place very well during the day, but at night had a blackout shade on it so that no light could be seen by the German bombers we could hear patrolling overhead. C was the chess table. D and F were two comfortable chairs facing the table. I always sat in D, and Crowley always sat in F. G was the round turntable full of books down at my right, where I picked up the I Ching book with the Crowley paintings for covers. H was the two-tiered open bookcase in the north wall, over under the window. That's what he says. North wall over under the window. The letter H is about where I found the volume of Abramelin squares. It was on the top shelf. I signifies 4 framed line drawings in typical Crowley style that I can only describe as being mildly erotic. They were certainly not obscene. Unfortunately, the only one I can remember with any clarity was the one on the left. It featured a young lady looking down with great delight at what looked like an overgrown bush, with Crowley in Oriental garb looking over her right shoulder. And the caption read something to the effect about how wonderful it was to know this young woman, because, quote, she has the world's largest cunt, unquote. Unfortunately, these drawings did not survive to be shipped to Germer after Crowley's death. I can only presume they were ripped off. I met Lady Frida here and also Dr. Lewis Wilkinson. It's my impression that it is my impression that he was a medical doctor. But as a British author, he wrote under the name Lewis Marlowe. I can't tell you what the kitchen and bedroom looked like, as I was never in either of them. But the bedroom looked pleasant and sunny enough from the living room. This is the place where a German bomb blew in the back windows one night, and Crowley said if he had been home at the time, he would have been killed. Crowley had an idea that he could divine a person's character rather quickly by the way he played chess. The right side opening, usually king's pawn, met a fast, slashing, rather reckless attack. The left side opening, usually queen's pawn, unless one is going in for the hyper-modern theory where anything is possible, meant a slow, leisurely, intellectual game and person. I tended the right side myself. Apparently, Crowley liked that. Anyway, after about the third meeting, he said, You are obviously ninth degree material, and handed me the papers. Among those papers are something else I ran across yesterday. Not these particular ones, but the material. It was here he told me about my chess game, as he put it, a story he loved to tell. It was a blindfold game, one in which the player does not see the board. Anyway, he went to bed with a lady of his choice at the time, while his chess opponent sat at the board within easy talking distance, but where Crowley couldn't see it. The idea was to see if Crowley could achieve climax and call mate at the same time. As he said with great delight, I did it. It was also here that I asked him for help with my motto. See the previous OTO newsletter. Help with my motto that the incident of the British schoolboys happened. I'm so used to reading freak-out accounts about how Crowley was supposed to be such a badass that I was a little taken aback recently to read an article in which someone was trying to make him out as a kindly old gentleman. Well, he certainly could be kind enough if it struck him that way, but so far as I could tell, he remained irascible to the end. Anyway, it's a habit in England for schoolboys to go around in small groups at Christmas time and sing carols at your front door. And, as has been said, they will not go away until they are paid. Well, they did that time. Go away, that is, without being paid. We were sitting there at 93 German Street playing chess and rapping one wintry afternoon just before Christmas of '43, when we heard this raucous noise at the door. Crowley said, I wonder what that is, in some annoyance, and went and opened the door. Here were 4 English schoolboys bawling away. Crowley flew into a temper, slammed the door, and came storming back into the room. To the lions with him! To the lions with him! Of course, if they had been singing O Little House of Boleskine, as someone was at a recent Crowley Mass party, he might have felt differently. Of course, it was here at German Street that Crowley gave me his typical Crowley view of the people of the Mediterranean. All those people can think of is fucking, is the way he put it. I'm sure Crowley understood the word irony, okay. But I think he might have been forgetting it right here. All they can think about is fucking. In his own succinct way. It was also here that we took off one day for lunch at some posh London restaurant. I had gotten into town in the morning, amazingly enough, or maybe I had spent the night being a red-blooded American boy with one of the whores from Piccadilly Circus. Wars are fought on the unexpended virility of young men. Personally, I never found any shortage of young women to help get rid of that problem. That was all in parentheses. He decided to celebrate by treating me to a fine lunch. It was in a hotel, the Savoy, or the Savoy, as I recall, but don't hold me to it. I remember that the doorman at the time wore his British Army combat ribbons on his doorman's uniform. With the barrage balloons flying and all that, wartime London could be a rather exciting place. Sometime I must tell you about the Red Berets of Ord Wingate's Burma Drop and the British Officer Club circuit. But anyway, I got the idea that winning the Victoria Cross was a high recommendation for retiring as a doorman for a posh London hotel. But then it was wartime London. Crowley was wearing a knickered tweed suit he had especially ordered and tailored, and was so proud of it. He loved to show you how efficient it was, all those little pockets and things. It came complete with gravy stains, which can still be seen in photos as late as 1945. The famous photos, he's looking very thin, he's got a pipe in his mouth, and you can see the gravy stains on his tweed jacket. That was taken in Hastings, just before he died. Very important in shortage-plagued wartime England, but it was very unusual looking. Anyway, as we were walking into the lobby, I was walking on the right. A rather beefy-looking Englishman came out of the restaurant and took one look at him and burst into laughter. I flushed and half turned my head with something in mind about doing something about it. "You can't laugh at my prophet that way." But then I noticed that Crowley was laughing and talking and paying no never mind. And I suddenly flashed that it would make a rather silly headline the next day: "Berserk American officer assaults peaceful British citizen at posh hotel." So I simmered down and we walked into the dining room. The reason this incident sticks in my mind is because of something that happened on the way. We had taken one of those big red double-decker buses and were sitting in the bottom level on the left about halfway. We were sitting here talking when suddenly Crowley glanced up to the left and said, "Pardon me a moment," closed his eyes, and made some mystic passes with the fingers of his right hand, and mumbled something unintelligible. Unintelligible to me, anyway. It wasn't until later that I figured out that he had been doing noon resh. The thing that is so striking is that he was so quiet about it. To hear some people talk, you'd think that he would have rushed up to the top deck and shouted it from the housetops to all of Greater London. There may have been times where he did, but he didn't do it that day. That's the end of part 1, and I think that's a good place for us to stop. I hope you are finding this amusing, if not interesting and amusing, and I'll continue on. I want you to be aware that right in the middle of things, Grady is dropping very, very important pearls of magical arcanum that are there for those with ears to hear, which was sort of the way when Grady was kind of in his stride. His writings are full of it. that too. Anyway, I love Grady. I miss Grady. He was quite a character, and I was proud to know him and be initiated by him. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.